MOLISELLA. Once upon a time, there lived a beautiful little girl called MOLISELLA. She was lovely because her eyes were sweet and she was able to look at things with her heart. She lived with her parents in a humble cabin on the slope of the Montebello mountain. A wicked witch, who was jealous of their family harmony, had confined them there, far apart from the rest of the world. They scraped a living from the gifts that the bleak nature around them could offer. But nonetheless, they filled every day of their lives with sincere love, which bestowed beauty on everything around them. MOLISELLA was never sad, and she was never disheartened by difficulty, although she happened to daydream of playing with other children, chasing butterflies in the meadows, or throwing herself into the wind with her arms stretched toward the sky. Her only friends were three siblings, three little birds, Leo, Bea, and Todd. When she saw them, she would merrily clap her hands and her face would light up with joy. To make her happy, the little birds would gaily crisscross the air, gliding like dancers in the boundless blue sky. Then they would flutter down next to her and keep her company with their sprightly songs. One day, Leo, who was the smartest one, came up with a beautiful idea. Why don't we hold MOLISELLA in our claws and take her up with us, up in the sky for a nice flight? Oh, yes, let's do it, the other two chirped in unison, and they started twittering a song they often sang. Over here and over there, happiness is everywhere. Together we will be, and we will be merry. MOLISELLA couldn't believe it. Her feet lifted from the ground, and light as a feather, she started twirling in space, held up by the loving little creatures. What a feeling, what an emotion! How beautiful it was to be able to gaze down at the things of her life while she was listening to the little birds sing, "Frisk, frisk, that is happiness." At one point, however, Todd, who was a total daydreamer, started wondering what could lie beyond the mountains that stood out against the horizon, and as he got distracted, he loosened his grip, causing MOLISELLA to fall down. The little girl hit the ground and lost her senses. So the three little birds started desperately calling for help. Tweet, tweet, help! Tweet, tweet, help! Just nearby was a wood nobody had ever walked into. It was home to two beautiful fairies. They had long fair hair, and their pink chiffon dresses were scattered with star-shaped gems. They had dazzling bright ones, and they enchanted whoever looked at them. They shone with the light of goodness, and that goodness enabled the two magic creatures to perform good deeds. The desperate calls drew their attention, so they came out and asked what the matter was. Bea tried her best to explain everything. MOLISELLA's fallen victim to a witch's curse. We wanted to make her carefree, but now she could die. Oh, poor little girl, the fairies exclaimed. Quick, quick, we have to do something. They lifted their wands towards the sky and off go evil. Here come goodness, MOLISELLA no longer know distress. The child rubbed her eyes and stood up. She tenderly greeting her new friends who took her by the hand and asked her to lead them to her parents' dwelling. When they reached the Montebello mountain, the fairies decided to make Molisella's happiness complete. They asked her mom and dad to take her between them in a tight hug. You have been able to accept your lives in spite of the many obstacles along your way. You have lived on love and cultivated peace. Now you shall forever have company, and you shall be free to move about a wonderful world. Your home shall be a castle, and you, Molisella, shall be a princess, and you shall reign over a unique land which will be named after you. It shall be called Molise. Its nature shall remain unspoiled through the ages, and it shall be inhabited by simple, sincere, hardworking people. They shall fill the streets and squares of your realm with the gleam of festivals and feasts, but they shall also know how to look up to the sky in reverence for divine laws. Then they turned to Leo, Bia, and Theo and said, You shall be the princess's paladins, but you, Theo, don't be too much of a daydreamer. Then, giggling and laughing, the two fairies disappeared while the barren, desolate land was suddenly vested with greenery, flowers, rivers, and lakes. Even the sea lined its border. It was summertime. The children were playing in the grass, and Molisella was playing with them too. The fireflies were dotting the fields with their tiny lanterns, and the crickets were chirping. And so they lived happily ever after in that magical place born from the heart of a little girl who had been able to love, who had been able to hope.